In the 8th episode of Dandadan, we're introduced to a new creature, Nessie. I didn't know this at first when I started reading the manga, but the creatures and characters in this story are actually real-world ideas that Tatsuyuki Nobu incorporated. They're cryptids and urban legends that he populated the world of Dandadan with. In this video, I'm going to review these ideas as they exist in real life to discover the history behind them that Tatsu brought into his story and made his own. Just a heads up, this is going to be a basic intro to the idea and won't be going super in-depth. If you want to know more, I encourage you to go dig into the research for this stuff yourself. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So in this episode, we are graced with the entrance of one of the most classic cryptids in the world, right up there alongside Bigfoot and the Chupacabra. Nessie, full name Loch Ness Monster, is a cryptid originating in Scotland, specifically the Loch Ness in the Scottish Highlands, hence the name. So, first and foremost, for anyone who isn't Scottish, a loch is basically a lake. In fact, the word lake, in English, originates in the word loch, which is Scottish and Irish Gaelic in origin. The Ness part of the name comes from the river that flows from its northern end, the River Ness, which itself received its name from the river goddess Nessa of the Pictish people, who were a people who lived in Scotland in the early Middle Ages. Sorry, Earthbound fans, you're still ignored, as is your eternal curse. The earliest supposed sighting of the Loch Ness Monster actually goes as far back as the year 565 AD, when Saint Columba is said to have banished a water monster back into the river when it attacked one of his disciples as he was trying to swim across the river. Apparently after this, the creature decided to move downstream into the loch and didn't make itself known again until 1871 or 1872. But the story about this supposed sighting was not made known until 1934, when the surgeon's photo that originated the modern interest in Nessie was published and spiked public interest in the creature. Now, it should be noted that the photo in question, pictured here, has been debunked as a hoax. For about 60 years or so, until 1994, it was widely considered as proof of Nessie's existence, but it wasn't without controversy even in its heyday. One of the earlier controversies surrounding the photo regards the fact that it was cropped, cutting out the important context in the original photograph that depicts the other side of the loch from the perspective the photo was taken, which makes the scale of the supposed Nessie in the photo look way smaller. By cropping out that context, the creature appeared much larger, and the waves behind it no longer appeared to be small ripples. In 1993, the makers of the Discovery documentary Loch Ness Discovered, back when Discovery actually made good stuff, oh, where have the good times gone, analyzed the photograph and found a consistent white blemish across all versions of the photo, which couldn't be ruled out as an imperfection of the negative, but did appear to be something towing the creature, as if it was a watercraft. In 1999, a book was published by zoologist David S. Martin and researcher Alistair Boyd entitled Nessie, The Surgeon's Photograph Exposed, which contained in it a confession that Martin had obtained from a man named Christian Sperling in 1991. Sperling, the son-in-law of actor, screenwriter, director, producer, and perhaps most saliently, big game hunter M.A. Wetherell, had built a toy submarine at the behest of Wetherell to stage the photograph. Wetherell had been publicly ridiculed by his then employer, the Daily Mail, a newspaper in the UK, after he had found Nessie footprints that ended up being a hoax. In retaliation, and probably in an attempt to clear his name, he decided to stage the photograph with his aforementioned son-in-law Christian Sperling, who was a sculpture specialist and modified the toy submarine, which had been purchased from an F.W. Woolworth retail store, with wood putty to give it the head and neck. Ian Colin Marmaduke Wetherell, holy shit, British names are so fun, his son and a future actor himself, who had purchased the materials for the submarine, and Maurice Chambers, an insurance agent who took the photos to develop and crop them, and who, quote, enjoyed a good practical joke, unquote. So that's the story of how the modern interest in Nessie was sparked back in 1934, and continuing sightings were recorded in the 60 years between when that photo was first sold to the Daily Mail by Chambers, subsequently published, and when it was eventually debunked as a hoax as admitted by Sperling at 90 years old in 1991, then published in Martin and Boyd's book in 1999. Of course, 1999 was, unfortunately, 25 years ago, so did the legend of Nessie just suddenly die with the exposure of that photo as a fake? Of course not. Following the turn of the millennium, there was a video in 2007 from then 55-year-old laboratory technician Gordon Holmes that supposedly showed a, quote, jet black thing about 14 meters, or 46 feet, long, moving fairly fast in the water, unquote. Adrian Shine, a marine biologist at the Loch Ness 2000 Center in Drumnadrochit, suggested that the footage depicted an otter, seal, or water bird. A few other videos and photographs of supported sightings cropped up in 2011 and 2013, which were either admitted as faked by those who had taken them, or have a reasonable explanation. In 2014, in a turn for the modern, Apple Maps was the site of a supposed new sighting, with people pointing out that something that appeared to be the shadow of a 98-foot-long monster under the water was visible when viewing Loch Ness on Apple Maps, with explanations being that it was possibly floating wood, or the wake of a boat that had itself been lost in the image via image stitching or low contrast. The most recent sighting listed on Wikipedia is from 2021, when footage from a drone live stream supposedly captured a 20-foot monster on video in the loch, but no further follow-up has been given on this one just yet. But, given about every other sighting has been debunked or explained so far, chances are it's nothing. The implication in the episode seems to be that the Serpoians have Nessie under their thrall, or pressed into their service, and being that it's an alien, it has a mouth beam like Godzilla. This may be an oblique reference to Godzilla, actually, as a water-dwelling, lizard-slash-dinosaur-esque creature that can shoot beams out of its mouth. Of course, there was one other thing in this episode to address, though it's hardly a cryptid or urban legend. As you probably noticed, Tatsu decided to take the idea of the Mantis Shrimp, which is an actual animal, and make an alien out of it. Now, the Mantis Shrimp is introduced in the story with its punching power, which is indeed what it's known for, and obviously this inspired Tatsu to create a Mantis Shrimp alien that's a boxer. Now, why exactly he also decided to make him sing ABBA, or maybe it's meant to be the Cher cover, I really have no idea. I made the mistake of confusing the Mantis Shrimp with the Pistol Shrimp, which some of you may have as well, where the Pistol Shrimp has the incredibly fast snap with its claw that is so fast that it creates a cavitation bubble in the water that collapses back in on itself with enough force to produce a sound at a volume that sounds like a pistol going off, hence the name. The Mantis Shrimp is not the same shrimp. It's known more for its strength than the speed of its snap. Anyway, that's all I have for you in this episode of The Truth Behind Dandadan. Hopefully you enjoyed this little review of the real-world ideas behind the show. Feel free to drop a comment if you can think of any other info I didn't manage to find. If you did enjoy, make sure to like and subscribe as well so you can support the channel and see what else I put out. Until I see you next time, stay safe and have fun.